All right, welcome to the Shepherd of Hermas series. This is going to be on the Book of Visions. This is the Vision 1 that we're going over. Next time we do anything in this series, it's going to be the pattern of the visions, and then the commandments, and then the similitudes. So this whole book is like a trilogy. It is one of my favorite books of all time, probably my top one. Um, but in general, welcome to another study. If you haven't ever been to a study, I appreciate you for tuning in or watching it later. But this book, again, I am introducing it to you guys if you had never heard of it as well. I try to do my best as well, touching on apocryphal books. So that way you have a study to reference. You have something to always reference, and to be able to know that you can always find some type of connections. If you can't find any on your own, you can always use use these studies as a reference, and any scripture connections that we were able to gather. But of course, I always try to make sure I push you guys to study to show yourselves approved, and to be a workman, and just understand that there's connections in a lot of these apocryphal books, especially for those who have knocked them, not knocked plenty of the apocryphal books before, or are currently doing so. This is going to be interesting because this is actually another book, alongside Enoch as well, and some other ones that were read back in the day. I guess you would say your earliest Christians, I would say, but they were read back in the day. This book was read back in the day, and another one that that was removed. So again, it's always some connection and always some blessings that we're able to find with more wisdom, once everything is divided well. So, but let me go ahead and pray in, and so that way we can set it up well. And yeah. So, dear Yah, we just thank you just for giving us the grace and the mercy to come to another study and just be here again, and be able to learn your word, and be able to understand your word, and be able to just grow in your word, to be able to not only just do it and growing in knowledge, but also just doing it, not in a fleshly way, but doing it through your spirit, and the knowledge in your spirit, the counsel in your spirit, and the wisdom in your spirit, and which is the spirit that you've given us, the understanding, and the fear that's attached to it. We just ask that you continue to also bless us with the power in your spirit, that we may be able to apply these things that we're learning, and be able to utilize it, so that way we're able to walk straight and narrow, but not just in a weak way, but in strength. And we ask that you continue to allow us to divide more and more, and gain wisdom, and not fall to the wayside, that certain things may lead some astray, if they're interpreting different things wrong. But we just ask that you bless us in this study, and bless us for furthermore in our own studies, that you give us the right understanding in the right direction. And we ask that you remove anything in our hearts that could be hindering us from growing and listening, and hearing your word, that we may not, um, anything that may be holding us back from applying anything today. And we just ask that you release those bondages upon us, in our heart, and our mind, and our soul, that your spirit takes over, that we may be able to surpass those bondages, and be able to apply what you are speaking to us today. And we love you, and we just give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor in the name of your Son, Yahusha HaMashiach. We pray. Yamin. Yamin. All right, y'all. So, yeah, so I'm going to record. I'm already recording this so I can download it, and put it on the YouTube channel also. So it's not going to be on Instagram, because Instagram has blocked my images. And by blocking my images, I also can't go live too much if I have slides attached. So which means I just have to download it, upload it on YouTube, and probably just make a post that just says it's uploaded or something like that. Um, but I do like this platform a lot better as far as the Zoom is concerned, because it's very fluid, and they've made a lot of changes for everything to be fluid. So it is all good. It's all good. All right. So Shepherd of Hermas. I'm gonna read like a brief summary, just introduction to this book. You guys have all the right to be able to look into this book as well. Anything, commentaries and things of that nature. Just understand that not all scholars are, I would say, believers or study the word in a way that is with the Most High Spirit. So some things that they may comment on comes from a theological standpoint, especially within Catholicism or Christianity or whatever else they may be attached to, or they may be looking at it in a general way. So you just never know how they may speak on a certain book or may divide it in a certain way. But again, if you've already started with the general books, that's in the regular canon, and you've kind of made your way into certain apocrypha books, I would just say just to keep getting the more of the foundations of what you understand, and that way you can kind of venture off on certain books. But obviously, still being careful, still catching certain things that may be kind of misconstrued. And again, I always try to make sure that I do my due diligence with different apocrypha books, so that way you're always able to have a reference. And I spend time with these books. I also make sure I pray on it, make sure I get understanding from it, and truly continue to ask the Most High to bless me with the understanding to be able to help you guys gather more understanding as you study and as you read. And you never know, you will find certain things that you may catch that I did not put in the study, which is great. That's always a blessing about, the blessing with studying, and the blessing with looking into different things that you may not have read before, but also just still having a good foundation of wisdom elsewhere and in the regular canon. Um, so, so Shepherd of Hermas. So it says this work, composed as early as the late first century AD, but more likely in the mid second century, was highly regarded and even considered canonical by some sources, such as Irenaeus. It is found in the Codex Sinaiticus, and takes its name from a messenger appearing as a shepherd in order to deliver 12 commands to Hermas. It is thought that the shepherd may represent Yahushua HaMashiach as the good shepherd. Those who believe the shepherd of Hermas was written in the first century associated with the Hermas mentioned in Romans 16:14, while the majority believe the Hermas in question is none other than the brother of Pius the first, who would have thus written the mid-second century, in the mid-second century. Besides the possible late date of composition, also weighing heavily against its canonicity, oh my gosh, canonicity is the message of impossible moral perfectionism outside the mainstream of Christian thought, and the fact it lacks the essential message of Christ's atoning sacrifice besides the passing mentioned in Similitude 5. It is also it consists of 5 visions, 12 commands, and 10 similitudes. So again, that's just someone else's summary of the book, obviously. So once we get through different portions of the book, you guys will see how it's written, and it's a little different on certain regards, but it's very detailed. But it's still highly, highly, highly connected to most scriptures that you will find, and it's all foundational. So it's not anything like that's just over the top and outside of the realm of our foundations. It still connects to our foundations of wisdom, righteousness, and fear. All right. So I know I do believe that he was the brother of Pius the first. But I still have to look more into that. It's always some debates on who was who, because again, not every single person that wrote a book may be the specific author. So, like Wisdom of Solomon, Solomon may not be the specific author. It may be a scribe that is of Solomon, or someone who wrote things that he may have had written and wrote commentary, or wrote connection to it, or something of that nature. And a lot of people, especially really like self acclaimed, religiously speaking, Christians, they will tell you what isn't divinely inspired by the Spirit, tell you what work is not divinely inspired by the Spirit. And I used to do the same thing. I used to say the same exact thing, that it wasn't spirit breath, because it wasn't in the regular canon. But obviously you grow out of certain things once you start learning more, and understand that those 66 books in the Protestant canon are not the only ones that used to be there, or that has been there this whole entire time, right? So, um, you have to be able to pray, be able to read, be able to be led spiritually, to be able to know what you're reading in these books. And on top of that, it actually makes diehard Christians like very. It kind of makes them actually makes them very ignorant when it's all said and done, making that type of statement, because they have church fathers, as they call it, that they don't even know about. So there's a study I'm going to bring up. I'm going to do later down the line, maybe next month, on those church fathers, and show them also different theology, different things that they don't even know. And I personally didn't even know, obviously, back in the day, but, just show them, like, literally, this is where, this is where you guys this is where the foundations was coming from when it came down to the path of righteousness that has already been set. So if you're going to deny certain things, like an apocrypha book that is not in a regular Protestant canon, because you're praising Paul so much that you don't even understand why mostly Paul's letters are in the New Testament, as they call it. It's supposed to be called the renewed covenant, but they don't even realize why Paul's letters would be mainly there. Um, and it's purposely done, unfortunately, but at the same time, you have to use the wisdom with all things. So you have to understand why it was as such, and why, we have to understand more of the word in its fullness, and its connection, and connectivity, I would say. Um, so without further ado, I'll go ahead and put on the screen, um, an image, the image of the book, actually. So got my iCloud drive here, and there it is. All right, so I'll go in between showing the book, and then reading from it so that you can read it. This book is also in the Sefer, not the regular Sefer, but it's like a separate book that they have that you can buy. Basically, they have Joseph and Asenath, and Shepherd of Hermas, things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to actually purchasing that one day, and it has like the Hebrew names and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to that. But we'll obviously be reading it in English, regular English. All right. Shepherd of Hermas, the visions, vision one. The man who brought me up sold me to a woman named Rhoda in Rome. So supposedly, he's speaking of his dad that sold him to a woman named Rhoda in Rome. I don't have the perfect exegesis of this, because again, you know, it's either going to be by speculation, but mostly by what I've researched is that more than likely his dad it's his dad he's speaking of. And you can also look into the slavery and the way that it was set up in Rome during these times. That's another thing that's probably overlooked and not as researched as much, about the slavery that was going on during those times as well. So it says, many years later, I met her again and I began to love her as a sister. Sometime later, I saw her bathing in the Tiber River and I gave her my hand and helped her out of the river. When I saw her beauty, and I thought to myself and said, how happy I would be if I had a wife of such beauty and character. This was the only thing I thought, nothing more. Sometime later, I was going to Cumae and glorifying Yah's creatures for their greatness, splendor, and power, and I fell asleep as I walked. And a spirit took me and carried me away through a pathless region through which a man could not make his way, for the place was precipitous and eroded by the waters. When I had crossed the river, I came to level ground, and I knelt down and began to pray to the Most High and to confess my sins. While I was praying, the heavens opened. I'm just going to read it all the way through, y'all, and then I'm going to show y'all the slides after. The heavens opened, and I saw that woman whom I had desired greeting me from heaven, saying, hello, Hermas. And I stared at her and said, lady, what are you doing here? And she answered, I have been taken up in order that I may accuse you of your sins before the Most High. And so actually, no, I'm not. I'm not going to read it all the way through. So this is where I'm going to stop and I'm going to show certain slides, okay? So let's see here for our first slide. All right, so we have here an interaction, right, between Hermas and this woman, okay? This woman, I believe her name was Rode. Um, So either way, her name is not necessarily, it's not important, but we have an interaction, right? So he saw this woman that he was sold to, bathing, but he said he loved her as a sister, but he also was thinking thoughts. He was thinking thoughts in a certain way. He said it was only one thought, and he broke down his thought, right? So he loved her as a sister, and he saw her, and I'm showing you guys this table here because I want you guys to see how it connects to the temptation within Eve. Because so far we've already read up into the point where he's in this vision, and the woman that he had that thought about says that she is there at essentially his judgment case, and that she is accusing him of doing wrongdoing. Okay. So with the same thoughts that he had, he loved her as a sister, and essentially with Eve, she's talking to the serpent as a friend, right? So you guys remember that she's talking to the serpent as a friend, and actually, if you ever read the Life of Adam and Eve, the Greek version, you will see that they're having like a literally like a full blown conversation that's a little bit more detailed to the point where she's getting more like words from Hasatan or from the serpent, and the serpent is being used by Satan. And she's looking at what she's looking at as far as the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and she's looking at it differently, right? So we're gonna obviously talk down the line on how that breaks down too, but this is what she's essentially doing. She's talking to the serpent as a friend, just as Hermas is seeing this woman that he's painted as a sister. He's seeing her as a sister, but then he's thinking a different type of thought that you wouldn't think towards a sister. So he says, Hermas, he mentioned that he saw her, right? So he saw her bathing. Just like Eve saw that the tree was good for food and knowledge, she saw that it was something that she could gain from it. She saw this tree, saw the fruit thereof. Even though the Most High said not to eat of it, she still saw it as something to gain. It was pleasurable. So Hermas also mentioned, I gave her my hand. So just like he gave her his hand, he still, he made some type of connection through touch, obviously, right? So that's going to arouse the senses. He's not saying that he was aroused or he was, etc. But at the same time, practically speaking, we understand that if you have a certain thought towards someone, and you connect through touch or whatever the case is, or whatever, maybe even through eye contact or something of that nature, that could also spark something in your mind, right? Spark something in your hormonal whatever, hormones maybe kind of going off or something of that nature, right? So it's being practical to understand that that could very well be the case. Um, so same thing where Hermas gave her his hand. Eve gave Hasatan consent through oath, and gave to Adam the fruit. So you have, and it's an intangible, but it's tangible. It's a essentially the oath was a contract. It's like a contract between Eve and Hasatan in that moment where, basically in the life of Adam and Eve in the Greek version, tells her that before she actually goes to eat of it, and he already knows she's gonna go do it, but he said, make an oath with me that you will give to your husband as well. Okay, so you guys definitely have to read that on your own. Definitely some good stuff just to be able to have those connections. But he said, make an oath with me that you will give to Adam as well. So again, she made contact with the fruit. She ate of it, and she made contact with Adam that she was going to give him the fruit, physical contact. And same thing with Hasatan, with Satan, that she made a physical connection, specifically, I would say, just through words. You can't really grab words, obviously, like in the air, but it was still a physically done action to give consent to over to and make a contract essentially with Satan, with an enemy, that she was going to do something, right? So essentially, same thing with Hermas. It's not specifically super on that level, but I want us again to make practical connections that through physical contact, you also can give consent to more thoughts, or eye contact, or words, things of that nature. You're giving consent, especially if it's evil, over to the enemy to continue to pour more into you. He mentions also the sight of her. So the sight of her also, obviously, like Eve, she started having different thoughts than she initially had when she was looking upon the tree, right? Looking upon the fruit. Same thing for Hermas. He sees her and he starts having these different thoughts. But again, he loved her as a sister. So you don't think these thoughts if you truly have a sister, someone has a sister. He also mentions that he made, by the sight of her, it made him think within himself. Same thing with Eve. She had cunning words of trickery from the enemy within her mind. So it was bouncing around the walls of her mind where she's considering different things. She's thinking within herself. She's having thoughts that she did not have before, but she's using her actual brain. She's using, a thought process to be able to consider whatever she's already heard. And then he says also, I would be. So essentially, that means that he's already been thinking, and now he's come to the conclusion that it's going to definitely be beneficial for whatever he's thinking. So same thing with Eve. She settled in her mind that it would be so, that whatever she would be doing, even if it was against the commandment of the Most High, that it would still be beneficial for her own mind, for her, for her body, for her soul. Like it would just be beneficial for her to still do something that wasn't, supposed to be done. Right. So this is literally what we see on the level of how we see it, broken down. And let me see here. What's the next slide? Mm-mm-mm. Right. So I mentioned that court case, right? The court case, there's another study I have as well, that I go more detail in with, knowing your enemy, Matsima. So you'll see how he's the accuser. So Matsima is, the main name for Satan, in the Book of Jubilees, especially, but that's not necessarily specifically like his name that he had in heaven. And I will say that is also not Lucifer. But I will break that down a little bit more in the Enoch series because it's actually very simple, interestingly enough. But he has different names, of course, because he tries to make sure that he's stays on the same level as the Most High. Like he wants to be him. He wants to have many names and over the years and go by different things and et cetera, et cetera. So of course, he's going to have different names that he goes by. So one of those names is Mastema, and it essentially just means it actually means enmity. Enmity. It means like an accuser. It means to go against, to make war against, essentially. Right. So same thing as the name, what we usually call him, Satan. He is an enemy. He is against us, but he's against the Most High more so, and anything that is of the Most High. So within this court case, the judgment, he's an accuser. So if you read the Revelation of Zephaniah, you will see that there are angels that are writing either the good deeds or angels on the other side in front of the gates of heaven that are writing the bad deeds. So they give their accusations reports to Hasatan, to Satan, to Mastema. So that way he can show up on your court case and blame you with accusations to essentially get you to be judged as unrighteous so that he can carry you to his side of the realm so you can be judged with him and stay with him forever in hell, essentially when he gets judged. Or you can essentially be thrown into the place of condemnation already and you already, are condemned. So it's just, very detailed. um, and I'm sorry, y'all. What? Oh, I see. I really didn't realize that this may be the wrong slide, but I did put court case judgment. Um, and look at that. Do you know what helps you make your point clear? So that's just how they start you on certain slides and they already have something pre-made on there. I guess I literally did not fill the rest of this slide out, but at least I'm letting you guys know, that you have another study to go back on that Matsima, and I did spell it wrong also on that series as well. So I do apologize. I didn't realize it till later, but it's Mastema or Mastimo. Um, it's not Matsima. But you guys will see. It's not like so bad of a misspell, but um, I just want you guys to be able to follow back on or go back on those studies and be able to get more research done. But there is a court case. And the next slide. So go back into to our to our study and we go to vision 1. So I'm going to read a little bit more and I'm just going to actually just read it all the way through so we can finish the rest of the slides. So we stopped at pretty much verse 5. So it says, and I stared at her and said, Lady, what are you doing here? And she answered me, I have been taken up in order that I may accuse you of your sins before the Most High. And I said to her, are you now accusing me? No, she said, but listen to the words I am about to say to you. Yah who dwells in the heavens and created out of nothing the things that are, and increased and multiplied them for the sake of his holy church. So now remember, this is a book that was written back then. Essentially, you're going to find a little bit more quote unquote church type words in there where it's going to say church. It's going to say something of that nature, but essentially assemblies is a better word for church. It's a better word for understanding that when people are assembling that are of the Most High, that's an assembly, right? So don't especially Torah heavy people in a sense of like, you're always picking on Christians in a certain way. Don't get offended just because it says Holy Church. All right. Just understand this, just specifically trying to just say assemblies more so, and don't go down the rabbit hole of certain doctrine, because it's not trying to present that. So it says, and multiply them for the sake of his holy church, or holy assemblies, is angry at you because you sinned against me. Answering her, I said, I sinned against you? In what way? Or when have I ever spoken an indecent word to you? Have I not always regarded you as a goddess? Have I not always respected you as a sister? Why do you falsely accuse me, lady, of these evil and unclean things? She laughed at me and said, the desire for evil rose up in your heart, or do you not think that it is an evil thing for a righteous man if an evil desire rises up in his heart? It certainly is a sin, and a great one at that. She said, for the righteous aim at righteous things. So then, as long as their aims are righteous, their reputation is secure in heaven, and they find the Most High favorably inclined in all that they do. But those who aim at evil things in their hearts bring death and captivity upon themselves, especially those who lay claim to this world and pride themselves on their wealth and do not hold fast to the good things that are to come. Their souls will regret it, for they have no hope. Instead, they have abandoned themselves and their life. But you pray to the Most High, and He will heal your sins and those of your whole house and all and of all the saints. So going to our slides. So notice that there was that there's like the subject of my accusation. So again, I'll go back to the book. So this is going to be a little bit different wording, but it should be in verse 6, where it says here in this one, it says, are you accusing me? Or he's accusing of the sins. And so in the LSV version, it says, let me see. Hermas says, lady, I said, are you to be the subject of my accusation? So just like he says, lady, what are you doing here? And she answered me, I have been taken up in order to accuse you. Right. So in another version, he's just saying, verse 6, I'm sorry, he says, are you now accusing me? And she goes on to say what she's saying. So again, in the LSV, it says, lady, are you to be the subject of my accusation? Okay, so I wanted to actually um, hit on a little bit of that. Give me 1 second. Oh man, the sharing is a little bit different here, but it's fluid. It's still very fluid. So the subject of my accusation. Okay. So you do have to think, if you were accused in that moment. So remember, he's getting a vision. He got a vision out of nowhere, and it's essentially like his judgment in a sense. Right. So imagine that happens to you while you were in your sin. What would be the subject of your accusation? Right. And not just sit there and say like it's one person specifically. You have to understand what is the accusation that would be against you with that subject. Right. So you can't say, oh, well, it's this person, or they did this to me, whatever the case is. No, you're already being accused of something that you did wrong in that moment. Right. It's self-reflection. So you would have to understand what is the subject of your accusation, including whatever you did with that specific object, or it's the object that's within the subject of your accusation. So for example, you know how when we've grown up in school, you would have like, oh, what's your subject, or something like that. I think that's what they used to say, but you would have like math, and it would be like, okay, what type of math? It's like algebra, something like that, right? So it's more detailed, but it's still connected to exactly whatever the accusation is. There's going to be an object of the accusation, and then what's the subject behind it? What's the connective tissue that is the reason why you're being accused? The Most High is a just judge, so He's not just going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, it was a woman in your presence, you touched her, and that's it." No, he's like, well, this is what you did with this specific person, and these are where your sins lie before what you actually did. Um, so there's another study that I also did about, knowing your enemy and the sin of omission and commission. So it's very good to go back and read, probably go into those studies or just look it up in general. But the sins of commission, and I'll go ahead and just put that in this study for you guys to have. I'll just read it out. Give me 1 second. So sins of omission. So it's something. It's a lack of conformity to the Most High's law or failing to do what commands. So you knew you got some type of instruction, and even though you got that instruction, you still did something that you shouldn't have done. So it always starts with you getting instruction. And never anything with sin and things of that nature. It's never really fully about what you didn't receive, because you did receive the instruction. Now, those who didn't receive instruction as well, they may be in sin, but the main thing is they may not have received instruction either from their parents or, like in certain environment that they were in. And so therefore, if someone, gives them a consequence of whatever they did that was wrong, now they know the instruction, and so now they have actual willful choice to not do what they're not supposed to do. So that way, the Most High is always a righteous judge. He always makes sure that he's just not judging off of partiality, because he shows no partiality, right? He doesn't allow one person to give him all the riches in the world, and that way their slate can be clean, and then another person who doesn't have riches, who's poor, he judges them harshly. He does not show partiality. Okay, so that is like sin of omission. You knew what you were supposed to do, but you did not do it. I'm sorry, you knew what you got the instructions, but you did what you actually did something against those instructions. And the sins of commission, and this one is more so you got the instructions, but you did something that you didn't do something that you should have done. So, for example, Adam, he shouldn't have ate the fruit, or he could have been paying more of attention to what Eve was doing, and that way he would have been able to speak up and either help her not do what she was going to do, or just not do it alongside of her. But he took of it anyway, and therefore he did not do what he was supposed to do, though he received the instructions. Eve is already in the sin of commission, because she did exactly what she shouldn't have done, but she actually did the whole entire act. um so again, let's keep moving on. Subject of my accusation. We know with Hermas, the subject of his accusation is the lady and what his thoughts were. But let's continue to read and see more of why the Most High was actually angry with him. So let me go back. I'm sorry. Okay. So again, you notice that she says, um, verse 7, Hermas says, I sinned against you in what way, or when have I spoken an indecent word to you? So he's asking her all these questions. And notice that he says, let me see here. And now it's very interesting that the differences in the translations, because again, I'm reading from the LSV version mainly with this. And again, like I told you guys, subject of my accusation. And in here, where it says the Holy Church over here, yeah, it says basically the Most High is angry at you because you sinned against me. So that's the end of verse 6. You sinned against her. So Hermas sinned against her. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Okay. So sinned against me, and I put an arrow here to show you the um thought process of the object of lust. Okay. So we're going to read some scriptures here because essentially Hermas committed a sin against her. And remember, he looked upon her. So let's go back to the other slide as well. So he loved her as a sister, but he saw her. He gave her his hand. He saw the sight of her. It made him think within himself, and he formulated a conclusion based off of all these different things that he saw. Okay, all these different things that was going on in that specific moment in time. So the thing is, you have to understand when it comes down to what we may lust over or we're sinning with or against, there's an object of the lust, there's an object of the sin. Okay, so in this case, he's looking at this woman. And so is there if you question in your mind, how do you sin against someone, especially men against women when you're looking at them? Same thing for women against men. How do you sin against someone if you're looking at them? Especially if you're, it's just in general, married or not, or whatever you're looking at or feeling. It doesn't have to be lust. It can also be just in general, irritation, frustration, anger, all of that. What is the object? And are you supposed to be doing that? Right. So with this specific case with Hermas, we got Matthew chapter 5, 27 through 30. Okay. Matthew chapter 5, 27 through 30. So it says, and this is the son speaking. So it says, and you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So looks at a woman lustfully or a man lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. So the main focus here is where his heart was, that it was he already committed adultery with her in his heart. So you can commit adultery with someone in your heart and they don't even know it. Okay. So we got Sirach chapter 9. We got Sirach chapter 9, and you got verse 3 through 9. It says, meet not with a harlot. So I'm reading from the Sefer version. Meet not with a harlot, lest you fall into her snares. Use not much the company of a woman that is a singer, lest you be taken with her attempts. Gaze not on a maid that you fall not by those things that are precious in her. Give not your soul unto harlots, that you lose not your inheritance. Look not around about you in the streets of the city, neither wander in the solitary place thereof. Turn away your eye from a beautiful woman, and look not upon another's beauty. For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman, for herewith love is kindled as a fire. And it says, sit not at all with another man's woman, nor sit down with her in your arms. Wow. And spend not your money with her at the wine, lest your heart incline into her, and so through your desire you fall into destruction. So it's just telling you easily. Sirach is just one of my favorite books as well, but it tells it plainly, and it also doesn't sugarcoat a lot when it's all said and done. So the main scripture that we're reading from that we're taking from is turn away your eye from a beautiful woman and look not upon another's beauty, for many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. For herewith love is kindled as a fire. So notice essentially Hermas looked at her as a sister, essentially. He was seeing her as a sister. It could be a certain amount of time that he regarded her as a sister. But then in that moment when he saw her bathing and he was helping her, and he's like, man, like he's thinking a whole different process because she's beautiful. And you notice when he's asking her, how did he sin against her? He also says, did I not regard you as a goddess? So right there, we've already like you know how when people get in trouble and they are already kind of telling on themselves, it's essentially like what Hermas is doing. He's telling on himself actually, doesn't even realize it. By regarding a woman as a goddess, you are putting them, you're making them an idol essentially, right? They're the object of your lust. They're the idol of your lust. So that's what actually happens with lust. You're essentially like idol worshiping. It's still part of idolatry. And we just don't think about it like that enough. But if we do, imagine the changes that we can actually make to understand why we need to make sure there are parameters set of instruction to know how do we deal with that if a thought arises. Could have used a lot of this stuff when I was younger, younger men, and it's just a lot of people. Not that I ever, I wasn't struggling so bad with it, but it's just the fact that it's like when you're a young man and you're trying to live for Yah, you see scriptures and you may not divide it as well. And it's just certain times, certain things just may happen. Um, and it's just you have to learn how to be more disciplined and not so much where it's like so heavy on you where it's like you just like can't stop, but it's just more so like you can still get irritated that it actually that you're like you're fleshly and that it can just happen and you're just like, man, what the heck, like I thought I wasn't trying to do that or whatever the case is. It's just something that you just have to learn over time, especially if you never heard anything. And that's why, I try to do as best as I can to put more of you guys on all of this information that's in there. So that way you have it. Just like that spirit of lust study, very detailed. But again, it's very practical for you to be able to really get as much detail as possible to know the ins and out of the spirit of lust. So same thing with this situation. You're able to look at this situation and be able to apply it to your own life, especially if you're dealing with specifically lust, but just outside of lust in general, with everything that you do, whether it's anger, frustration, the object of the sin that you're doing, you still can use all of these principles, all these precepts to do better, to follow better in the instructions that he's given us. So, chapter 6, Proverbs 23 through 27, it says, for the commandment is a lamp, and the Torah is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. To guard you from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. Lust not after her beauty in your heart, neither let her take you with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Can one go up upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So he that goes into his neighbor's woman, whosoever touches her shall not be innocent. So, you could still connect with the neighbor's woman to again whatever sin that you're going through. But essentially, again, going back to the beauty in the heart, we still have more connections to really see where Hermas sinned. It says, lust not after her beauty in your heart. Again, we're still finding more and more connected. 1 John 2:16. 1 John 2:16. So it says, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life, the lust of the eyes. The lust of the flesh, the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. Very simple. Proverbs 27:20. So I got Proverbs 27:20. Um, yeah, 27:20. Sorry, y'all. Trying to open it up here. And make sure you guys always try to read with me. So that way you see it as well. It says Sheol and Abaddon. So Abaddon is the like destruction, or it could be the angel of destruction. It's essentially Sheol and Abaddon are never full. So the eyes of man are never satisfied. So it's giving you a connection literally with hell, with Sheol, the place of condemnation. Sheol is endless, endless pit of darkness. And Abaddon is the angel, essentially the evil angel that is connected to it, that drags souls into its pit. And again, also, if you guys read as well, in Enoch especially, Uriel is actually over that place. Essentially, he's the head person over Sheol, because there's two places, and there's a division where the righteous go and they are waiting to receive their heavenly body when the son returns and does what he does. But on the other side, there's a place of condemnation. So if you never read that before, you can find that in Second Esdras, or it's also called Fourth Ezra, chapter 7. Okay, do not read it in the KJV, because those scriptures about what happens after you die are omitted from the KJV. They specifically or supposedly said that it was too graphic, and that's why they took it out. But we know that anything that's quote unquote too graphic is more than likely true, that they were trying to hide, as a lot of things. So again, the eyes of man are never satisfied, to the point where obviously this is a fleshly man that's living in the world, that is living in living in the lust of the flesh, living in the pride of life, living in the lust of the eyes, everything that is of the world. They are going to never fully be satisfied, and that's with whether it's sexual things, or whether it's riches, uh, you know, um, just I guess goal attainment, like just everything. They're just trying to get as much out of life as possible, to where everything is essentially hedonism. Attain all your pleasures and all things as much as possible and live your life. You also can read the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, and you will see how these same type of people that's basically living YOLO, you only live once, they created their own law of righteousness that is based off of you only live once. Get drunk all the time. Let's just get drunk. We were born to die anyway. Let's just do everything we're supposed to do, that we want to do, in order to, just live life at its fullest. But then they see a man of Yah that doesn't do that, and they're getting irritated. They're getting like vexed, because they're like, man, this dude is living righteous life, blah, blah, blah. So that's a really good read for you guys if you haven't read it already. But again, the eyes are never satisfied if you're in the flesh, and you're just going to want more and more and more and more and more. Genesis 3:6. Genesis 3:6. It says, going back to Eve, it says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her man with her, and he did eat. So again, you see those eyes, yet again, the lust of the eyes. So this is a good thing to also know and understand as well, that you guys can research and talk about with whomever, the old and modern issues with the object of lust. So there's something called objectifying. Okay. So I'm going to read it exactly how it says. To objectify is to degrade to the status of a mere object. Um, Also, it could mean also to give expression to something, like a feeling in a certain way where like they become like an object, or like a toy or a tool, where you remove like their feelings and opinions or rights or whatever it may be, but you've made them an object, like a lifeless, or essentially like a lifeless object. But more so just like a target of lust, let's just say, or a target of something that you're choosing to place on them, and they're not who they are. They're not anymore, like, let's just say, equal rights, I would say. Let's just say, just from an easy standpoint. But by objectifying, it's just women, I would say for women, they can do it to themselves as well. Just like men, when people sit there and say like, "Oh yeah, he's a sex icon," or uh, what do they call it, y'all? It's a sex icon, but it's also it's more so sex icon. But they'll say like, what is it called, y'all? I know I have it like at the tip of my tongue. Let me see here. Yeah, I mean, I got one person here in the study, so it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it as sex icon or sex object. So for example, you have people that believe, certain celebrities are good looking and things like that. So they end up placing them as a sex icon, especially if the same person talks about, sex symbol. Thank you. Sex symbol. So where they are talking about sexual things, they're talking about various things that are related to it. So of course they're going to be labeled as such, and that person could also be objectifying whomever they're talking about. So a man, if they're talking about, they're singing and rapping about sexual stuff, they're essentially objectifying women, or I guess men if they're into that as well. But it's the same thing; they're objectifying. Okay, um, so essentially, that's what Hermas did in a scale of looking at her, seeing her. He essentially said she was a sister. So he gave her a certain title of respect, but then he also revealed that he also looked at her as a goddess. And that same way he looked at her as a goddess, he thought he would be happy if he married her. Right. So essentially it's not so bad, right, in an innocent type of way. But again, the Most High says that righteous thoughts are supposed to be with a righteous man, not evil thoughts. And we're going to talk about that later down the line. But objectifying someone in a lustful way is not the way to go. And this is a very good chapter, or a very good subject of matter, because the way that it's written in Hermas, anybody can sit there and say that it's not that bad. When you have to label something as not that bad and not say it's actually bad in the way that the Most High says it is, we got a problem, because we keep trying to change things to what it's not. You can't label something as not that bad if it is that bad to the Most High. There's no way we can build fear, true fear, for something that is actually bad that we shouldn't do, and not go into the sin of commission and omission if we label something less than what it is. There's no way you can build fear like that. We're gonna pass by it later down the line in one of the other books of Hermas, but he says fear is twofold. So if you want to do something good, you have to fear the Most High, and you will do that good thing. But if you don't want to do evil things, you still have to fear the Most High, and that way you don't do evil things. There's still fear attached to it, because wisdom, fear is the root of wisdom. You have no true wisdom and instruction if you have no true fear. That's just how it is. Um, so again, the old and modern issues objectifying that you have a lack of modesty. So I just had a buddy actually that's a photographer, and he shared with me a video, or I think on his story, a video about the models talking about the eyes that they give when they are being captured, like for photography. So whether it's videography or photography, they were talking about actually the way that they look at the camera and person or whatever the case is. It's like they're trying to pull you in, and they are creating like this zone of like pulling or like temptation or stuff like that. And it literally starts with the eyes. It starts with the eyes, obviously the body around it, but they're doing it on purpose to try to pull you in like a dark hole, to think whatever you're going to think based off of how they're posing and how they're looking and whatever the theme is, right? And they're admitting this, right? And the photographer that I spoke to, that's a brother, he was like, man, I even like really think about it like that, you know. And so I actually told my wife one time too, and I remember noticing it's like the same look, when you are attractive to people, outside in the world. If they see you, like they give you sometimes it may be innocent from some, but the same like look from others, it's literally like it's like a demon. It's like Satan's face, where you see the same type of look of lust, or they're looking at you to kind of attract you. It's crazy. Like literally, I was in the mall probably like 2 weeks ago, trying to return something or just do some business, and I'm walking down, and this girl, with her friend, like sees me from a little bit, but I'm walking forward, and they're walking my direction, so they can pass me up. So of course, you guys know, like it's very practical for y'all to understand. Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat like stuff like this, but it's like, women will do a certain thing, like flip their hair to the side or something like that, so they can, it's whatever each person does to kind of make themselves feel more attractive in that moment, to make someone else look at them in a certain way that is attractive. It's like a I forgot this word too, but it's you're trying to you're just like a attractive pool or something like that. Like you're trying to trap somebody, I guess. That's how they say it more so in a modern way. But she flipped her hair in a certain way, and she thought I was gonna look over, and I just kept walking straight. I didn't even look. Like I'm just, but I notice, I know the tricks. I know the, whatever. Like that's just how it is. Because I already saw them, that they looked at me, and I'm already like, okay, yeah, I already know to, like, look to the right side. Now, was I looking at them essentially in the beginning? No, I wasn't looking at them in an objectifying way, because I have a line of vision that I'm already looking. So they just happen to be in my line of vision, but I'm already noticing, okay, this is, they're going to look at me in a certain way. They're probably going to try to attract, try to get me to talk to them or something like that. It's a mall, you know. So I just look straight, man. I just keep moving forward. Don't even pay attention. But it's so funny that she still, she tried to do the hair flip and all that stuff. And I was actually laughing in my mind, because I'm like, people will sit there and take that and be like, dang, I must be ugly because he didn't even look, you know? I've done that so much throughout the years. So I always just laugh, because I'm like, somebody probably think they like super ugly. And I just want to make a note too. That arrow, little curved arrow in the background, I could not remove that. I'm gonna show you a slide next, the reason why I put that in the background for that specific slide, but it happened to be on all of them. So it looks kind of cool, but it's kind of like, what? But whatever. We're just going to miss it. I just want to make sure I make a note of that. So moving on. So lack of modesty. You have lack of modesty. You have, always showing the body and showing sexual stuff. That's on both ends, whether it's men and women. More so, obviously, lack of modesty from women. You have a comment. This is on spirit. This is on a women that are of Yah and women that are not of Yah. So it's both ways. If I could show y'all this video, this woman posted a video and she took the comments off, and she says that basically she's of God, and she believes in things like that. But however she sees fit, the Spirit will tell her how to dress if it's modest. And what she had on was not modest. But she said, I talk to the Spirit, and the Spirit tells me what's modest. So you need to do the work on your own, and each to each his own, blah blah blah. But people will sit there and try to degrade me and try to sit there and say that what I'm wearing is not modest when I talk to the Spirit. And it's like, what? That's just how people do. They formulate these mindsets and these protective walls to lie, and that's not divided well in scripture. But they will believe it to the fullness and then project it onto others, so that way somebody who's also ignorant will sit there and say, you know what, she's right. I can wear this outfit that got all my stuff hanging out, and I'm not dressing for man. I'm not dressing to be seen. I'm dressing because I'm confident in who I am, and I love my body, and I glorify the Most High with my body. And just because I'm wearing all these tight stuff and revealing stuff, I'm still glorifying my body, glorifying the Most High through my body through this, because I'm just being thankful. Like, that's how they could say that, and it sounds believable. That does, bro. It's senseless. It doesn't even make sense. Just from a logical standpoint, if you understand modesty and look up the definitions of modesty, especially in Hebraic sense, because it was related directly to clothing and to adorning your face and putting all types of jewelry on and all types of stuff like that. So it's literally senseless. But these people will sit there and lead people astray. And the people that's being led astray just literally don't care to look up anything and just believe in anything that you see online. It's crazy. Old and modern issues again. Another one is common societal lust, projection, and hypersexuality. So, common societal lust projection is what I just put as just regular things that you'll see, like whether it's commercial or just you see a sign outside, like just while you're driving, anything, anything that could just be regular ways that they insert sexual things into something, into a movie, whatever it may be. And then the hypersexuality is really just, you got expos that are the topic of sexual stuff. You have even the jokes, can really be hypersexualized when it's a certain show or podcast or something that they're obviously projecting that this is, we talk about these type of things regularly and we make fun of it, but we also incite more lustful thoughts or something like that. But you guys know, you can research that on your own to see how hypersexual things are, especially now. It's on a level that we just don't haven't really seen before, because everything is accessible. So you have so much that people can get into, more so nowadays, and they also call it like soft porn, essentially. They put that out there and allow stuff to be like that on social media, and it's still sexual, it's still adultery, it's still things that people are getting into with the lust of the eyes. Virginity is also frowned upon. So when virginity is frowned upon, you obviously have people looking to not be a virgin, just in a general sense, right? So you still connect that to sinning against someone. You still connect that to being connected to, like connecting someone with the object of lust. And these are things in the background that are attached to um, people's goals, to either objectify, to either they care less about modesty, they want to fall into the societal lust, regular societal lust patterns. The hypersexuality is getting to them, or accept it. Virginity is frowned upon, so it's not okay to be a virgin past age 15 or age 19, whatever they do these days. That's how they put these type of issues inside. The object of lust, especially within hedonism, because it tells you can do whatever you want, find whatever pleasure that you need, and you go after it. And then polygamy is always going to be an interesting topic, especially within this community. Some will sit there and say it's okay, some will sit there and say it's not. um but essentially you have Genesis 2:24, where it's talking about that the man and the woman, they become one flesh, right? So when they're married, they become one flesh, they leave their father and their mother. So by becoming one flesh, obviously that's together, that's one. So when you have another partner, you're splitting that into two. You're becoming one flesh with this one and one flesh with the other one. So essentially they want, remember, with polygamy specifically, is it's more women to a man. But of course, you have, I don't even know what the word is when they say it's a woman to other men, whatever. But just on a general level with polygamy, you're splitting your soul, splitting your flesh with two. So it's not even one anymore. So that's why you have scriptures like 1 Corinthians 7:2 and 1 Timothy 3:2 that says the qualifications for either a bishop or just in general, one man should have one wife, right? Just like Christ, like Mashiach has one wife. But essentially, it's all connected when it comes down to him. So, sometimes they call us the bride, but we're also the friends. We're also, we're different labels. His firstborn son, especially with Israel. So it's different labels that you connect to different things, and it comes together as a whole. But when it comes down to a regular man, you are not becoming one. You're becoming one flesh with two women. But you're becoming two, connected to two flesh with two women, and you're not becoming one. But there were scriptures back then, there were things back then that obviously would tell you parameters in order to not make one woman like more than the other, and what still needed to be done if there was polygamy involved. So that's why also you'll see people in the Torah community will still continue to say, well, we're still allowed to blah. And it's still not divided well. So that's why I did also put Deuteronomy 17:14 through 17, because it also talks about not having another wife. So, and that's in Old Testament. So just utilize that as well, look into it more. But I just wanted to make sure I also put that here, because that is also a lust issue. That becomes a lust issue also. Some people get married to more than one wife because they have lustful thoughts, or they want to fulfill their own lustful intentions. So again, objectifying the women as objects of lust, or because you owe me, once I want, you owe me this right once I marry you. That's what we're supposed to do, and that we're supposed to, men are given authority to fulfill their own desires. And you take the whole essence of marriage out of that. You take the whole essence out of it, of what it's truly about. So I wouldn't want to be passing that down to my kids, but of course, people have their own opinions and scripture connection that they would like to draw when saying that that's okay. Next slide. So I created this little chart here too, to show you the desire of wickedness. Okay, so that's what Hermas was labeled in doing. He had a desire of wickedness. So we have James chapter 1. James chapter 1, and I think it's verse, I'm going to it right now. It should be starts at verse, I think it's 13, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, verse 12. Verse 12, chapter 1, James, blessed is the man that endures temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which Yahuwah has promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of Elohim. For Elohim cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempts he any man. For every man is tempted when he is drawn away from his own lust and enticed. And then when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. Okay? Do not err, my beloved brethren. So notice again, we have this chart here based off of that scripture, those scriptures. The onset of temptation is literally when someone is drawn away by their own lust. Um, I don't believe, and based off of how we're understanding the scriptures, the son Yahusha Hamashiach, when he went to the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, and then Satan ended up showing up towards that last day, I don't believe he was tempted. And I don't, essentially based off of how the scriptures are written and what we understand, literally what we're seeing here, he was not tempted with anything that Satan tried to come at him with. Satan was trying to find an avenue and any type of opening that he could use to get the son to heed towards whatever he was talking about, even if it was not complying with whatever Satan was saying, or even if he said no, I'm okay, whatever the case is, the son, he did not even entertain it. He immediately combated it with the word, because he is the word. But he showed us by example to combat it, essentially, is what we have to do with the word. And we're going to see that also the thoughts that Hermas had was brought up because of the fact that he still entertained the thoughts, right? So seeing that they're within the desire of wickedness, the onset of temptation is when you're drawn away by your own lust, whether it's lust or whatever sin is whatever sin it is. Drawn away by your own lust. So when that happens, it goes into the result from that is you're enticed. So onset of temptation comes up, and it's like imagine like you're inside a house and the temptation is outside knocking, and you open the door. That's when literally you allow temptation to start its access. So once you allow temptation to come into your household, you are now enticed and persuaded that the object of your lust is pleasurable. So you're giving it a chance. You're allowing it to literally be inside of your home. And now you whatever comes with the conversation is going to carry out now. And so later down the line, it says lust has conceived. So now the seed has already been planted. Decision is made to carry out the sin with whatever temptation has come through. Then when sin is produced, it says the sin of omission and or commission has happened now. So again, either you already got the instruction that you should not allow temptation to enter, but you allowed it to do so. So you did something that you weren't supposed to do. But also with omission, you did something that you didn't speak up, or you didn't apply something that you should have when you were supposed to. So it's both sins by allowing both types of sins, uh, uh, both concepts are smudged in together into one as just sin in general, seeing that you've already opened the door for it. You hadn't even kicked them out, but it's just the opening of the door that already messes it up. And then the last portion is the deed is done. It includes the aftermath of the thoughts, the feelings, etc. And it brings forth death, which means you're in line to be judged as unrighteous, right? So imagine doing this cycle over and over and over again. That's where we have to understand, like, those who have really been given mercy and grace, to still be here, to be able to walk after the Most High, despite all the things that we were doing that was especially in the cycle of all of this. Like, we don't understand how much fear we truly need to have to really work out our faith with fear and trembling and to make our election sure, because we were given a chance still. He still preserved us. He still sanctified us to be able to be here, to be able to hear something like this, especially for me personally, I give all the glory and thanks to the Most High for just blessing me to be here. Despite things that I may have done, with my own wife, before we were fully married, even though she's my only one, my only woman, and I'm her only man, still, it's still just the fact that we could have done so much better, just with um, purity and et cetera, et cetera. So that way, now I'm blessed to be able to help others and guide them to do so, guide them to do so. Um, because I would be wrong to sit here and not give the same like information that I've learned and to guide them, and guide you guys. That's why that spirit of lust study came out, and it's just by experience and by learning more in scriptures and really carry my heart into those studies to be able to help others, because that's I do care. And that's what the Most High puts in my spirit to do so. But yeah, this is the it's literally what happens, and you notice that it keeps going. Like once you get drawn by your own lust, it's already sin. It's already sin, especially what we see in Hermas. It's literally already sin. And so here's the next slide, the desire of wickedness. So continuing on that, the thought arose in the heart. Okay, so let's go back to let's go back to our go back to our Hermas, and it says down here, it says verse 8. So she laughed at me and said, the desire for evil rose up in your heart. Or do you not think that it is an evil thing for a righteous man if an evil desire rises up in his heart? It certainly is a sin, and a great one at that. She said, for the righteous aim at righteous things. So then, as long as their aims are righteous, their reputation is secure in heaven, and they find the Most High favorable, inclined in all they do. But those who aim at evil things in their hearts bring death and captivity upon themselves, especially those who lay claim to this world and pride to themselves on their wealth and do not hold fast to the good things that are to come. So again, in the heart, the evil desire rose up in Hermas's heart. Okay, so with this slide here, I'm probably not going to read every single thing, but the sinful condition of the heart is talked about in Jeremiah 17:9, where it says the heart is sick. So I can get that very quickly. I think the Wi-Fi is a little off right now. So Jeremiah 17. It says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yahuwah, search the heart. I try the mind, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So that's why when the Most High is not in your heart, his instructions are not in your heart, that's what happens on what we just seen as far as the temptation occurs. There's no way that if you see temptation outside of the door in your peephole, that you sit there and if you have the Most High in your heart, you sit there and even consider letting that person in. Even if you haven't opened the door yet, to even consider letting temptation in is essentially a sin. Like we're doing ourselves a disservice. We have to be able to see that and be like, oh no. And you like shut the door, like lock the door, make sure the door is locked, make sure you got like the extra locks on it, all that stuff. But blinds, close, everything. Something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like really protect, guard your light. But you can't do that if Yah is not in your heart, because he searches for it also to see if there are righteous things in it. Ephesians 4:27, it says basically, don't give the enemy access. Okay, so don't give him any access. Don't let him open the door, while also you not just opening the door for him. Because also in Jubilees 10:8-9, you're going to see that Mastema was given authority over the demons, over 1/10 of them. So he became a prince over the demons, and he wanted to do so and be prince over them because he wanted to exact his will upon man, because he said man has much wickedness. So if I can use these demons that feed on their wickedness, I can destroy them. So by allowing that, giving access for the enemy to do so and destroy us with wickedness, we're literally letting them do exactly what they want to do. The abominations of idolatry. So you have Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7, and you have verse 25-26. The graven images of their Elohim shall he burn with fire. You shall not desire the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it up to you, lest you be snared therein. For it is an abomination to Yahuwah Elohim. Neither shall you bring an abomination into your house, lest you be a cursed thing like it. But you shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. That is literally the basis of the sin, not allowing it to come into your household, into your mindset, into your heart, which goes into, and I spelled tabernacle wrong there, I don't know how, but it goes into the abomination of desolation. The enemy wants to cause desolation with his abominations. So if our bodies are the tabernacle, they say temple, but it's also tabernacle, then if he's causing desolation, that means he's causing wisdom, he's causing power, he's causing counsel, understanding, fear, like all these things that are in the spirit. John 17, where they make the Father, the Son, and the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, make their abode in us, they are causing desolation. They want to cause desolation by their abominations. And the only way that they can cause desolation by their abominations is if a man or the woman accepts those things into their heart, into their mind, into their own soul. And by Romans chapter 1, 18-32, you notice that the Most High gives people over to their lust, gives them over to a reprobate mind to do the things that are not convenient, to do the things that are unrighteous because of their own lust. And he's giving them over to it because they desire it. They do not even desire repentance, no forgiveness, no nothing, no grace, nothing. So he gives those type of people over to it so they can be judged immediately. They have like judgment already on them labeled. And by giving them over to a reprobate mind to do the things that are unseemly, that means that literally the enemy has caused an abomination of desolation within that tabernacle. And that's what happens a lot, especially for non-believers, people who follow his word. That happens all the time. So that's where you have Corinthians chapter 6, 19-20. You have Proverbs 6 and 16-19 that speaks about the abomination of desolation as far as the body is concerned. So I'll read Proverbs specifically. Let me see here. Yeah, we're almost done. Where are you, Proverbs? Try to go by these little tabs here. Oh, there it is. And again, I will upload this. Make sure I upload this. Proverbs 6:19, 6:16. So it says, these These 6 things Yahuwah hates. Yeah, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imaginations. He hates that. Those are abominations to him. A heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in ruining to mischief, a false witness that speaks lies, and he that sows discord among brethren. Man. So right there we have literally exactly what we're seeing why the Most High is angry with with Hermas for committing a sin against the woman, because he devised wicked imaginations in his heart. Even if it doesn't seem like that bad, it's exactly what he hates. So I had put these things from Psalms, um, strength for the heart. So again, we always want to make sure we understand where our heart should be, right? Where we need to try to have our hearts. So we got Psalms chapter 7, verse 10. It says, "My defense is of Elohim, which saves the upright, the righteousness in heart." So you have a full defense. So going back to that example of seeing temptation at the door through the peephole, your defense, you should have already locked your household up. That's why you have the lock on the door, right? That's what we have covering, right? You notice that the people in the Israelites, when they were in Egypt, and the Most High was already telling them that what he was going to do to the firstborn Egyptians, but saying that to make sure you put the blood of the lamb on your doors. Because if you don't have it on there, the angel of death is going to come in there and destroy you as well. But you have to have my blood, the blood of the lamb, on your door, covered, anointed, right? So you would have already done that, especially for your heart. Psalms chapter 15, 1 through 2. It says, it's Yahuwah, who shall abide in your tabernacle? Who shall dwell in your holy hill? He that walks uprightly. So again, another righteous person walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart. These are actions, these are works. You have to constantly do these things and constantly be involved in that truth and righteousness. Chapter 84, verse 5. You have Psalms 84, verse 5. You have, "Blessed is the man whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the ways of them." Heart are the ways of them. And that means that that person is blessed because they have his strength in their heart, in their bodies. Um, we have chapter 86, verse 11. "Teach me your way, O Yahuwah. I will walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name." Unite my heart. We have chapter 101, verse 2. "I will behave myself wisely in a perfect way. Oh, when will you come unto me? I will walk within my house with a perfect heart." It says, verse 3, "I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me." Um, Man. So it's a really good chapter to read, obviously. Talks about a pride, heart, et cetera, et cetera. But it's telling you essentially no wicked thing will be before their eyes. And they will walk in their household with a perfect heart. No need for anything to enter and be enticed in their heart, giving the enemy any type of leeway to tempt them. In chapter 119, Verse 2, it says, "Blessed are they that guard his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways, not their own ways." So that's what Hermas didn't understand. He thought he was doing the right thing in his ways and set it up in a certain way, but didn't realize that's not the Most High's ways. Very simple, right? Um, for scripture here, seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So, not also taking thoughts into your own heart of what you need, and whatever the case is, like in an evil type of way where it's contrary to scripture, where how we should think matters. Whether it's the lustful portion of like what we're trying to not do, but it's also about the things that you do think that come into your heart. It's a discipline that we have to learn and have to grow in, and it's tough sometimes. Is truly, 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 truly tough. But the more we give access to the enemy, the worse it is, because they're making their home into our hearts, right? So again, not taking a thought for something that you shouldn't have. Hermas, he thought that she would be a good wife for him based off of what he's seen physically. That's what he did, right? So again, no righteous man should have thoughts of unrighteousness in them by the parameters set of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, just in a general manner, and everything that we've already talked about. Um, Entertaining wicked thoughts contrast. So the reason why this is up is because in Hermas, in that same vision, it says here, and I'm going to read it from the LSV version in verse 10. It says, "For the thoughts of a righteous man should be righteous, for by thinking righteously, his character is established in the heavens, and he has the Most High merciful to him in every business. But those who entertain wicked thoughts in their minds are bringing on themselves death and captivity. And especially is this the case with those who set their affections on this world and glory in their riches and do not look forward to the blessings of the life to come." So again, with that slide that we saw earlier with the arrow and how it's going in a certain fashion, the onset of temptation happens when you allow it to come in. When you let me just go back just so we see it in this study. The onset of temptation happens when you're drawn away by your own lust. You're drawn away by it. And then because of that, you're enticed and persuaded that the object of your lust is pleasurable. So you've already let it in. So if you entertain wicked thoughts, you have already let those thoughts in. So the contrast of those thoughts that you're entertaining, that would you would be entertaining if you let temptation in, whether it's lustful thoughts, anger, frustration, bitterness, whatever it may be. The opposite is found in Philippians 4:4-9. It says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." So there's a direct solution. If you see whatever is sinful outside the people in the door that's knocking, you immediately have to contrast or fight against it, or bring up something against it that is not evil. You have to bring righteousness against it, truth. You have to bring his word in spirit and truth to fight against it. That's directly against it. So obviously thoughts directly against it. And I bring this same verse and chapter up a lot, but it's always going to apply. It's always going to apply, but it's from Second Ezra chapter 14, and this is right before Ezra was getting ready to get pulled up. But the Most High tells him, he says, set your house in order and reprove your people. So correct them, help them understand. And he basically says later on, he says, comfort the lowly among them and instruct such of them that are wise. Instruct such of them that are wise. The instruction goes to the ones who are wise, who with wisdom dwells with, because they love wisdom, they love the diligence, they love the discipline, they love correction, they love his word, his instructions. And so he tells Ezra also to renounce the life that is corruptible. So no corruption in you. And let go from your mortal thoughts. Mortal thoughts, fleshly thoughts. Let go of them if you are wise and incorrupt. Cast yourself away from the burdens of man, which will produce mortal thoughts, and put off now your weak nature. Tells you the mortal thoughts are weak, of our weak nature. Every time we go back into that, we're getting weaker. We're going into our weaker nature. And it says, lay aside the thoughts that are most grievous to you and hasten to depart from these times. So twice you see thoughts are involved because it's a massive thing. So we can train our mind with how we're supposed to, especially when we see and we're interacting with the object of whatever sin that we continue to have. Again, we have to understand we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. It's the spirits that may be behind that person, or that just may be in the environment because we've already opened the door for a spirit to be in there that shouldn't be in there. Same thing with Eve. Supposedly, when she looked at that tree, it wasn't even the tree didn't even look more beautiful than all the other trees, like the tree of life, the tree of wisdom that was there. But she looked at the tree of knowledge of good and evil with all the fruit on it and thought it looked good because she, again, received the thoughts that she did not have initially. So by those thoughts, it changed her mindset. Same thing with Hermas. He said she was his sister, but he saw her bathing and he changed all his thoughts to something, even if it didn't seem provocative, or it didn't seem, like it was hurting anyone. It still was wrong if he was supposed to be living as a righteous man. No wicked thoughts. We should not give anything place to the devil. We should not allow him to come into us and cause abomination and desolation. These things we have to carry in our heart. We have to be able to be in fear to follow these type of instructions. So that way we can literally live how we're supposed to. We can think the way we're supposed to. We can have it in our heart the way we're supposed to. And no matter what comes up, we do what we're supposed to every single time. That's what he wants us. That's where he wants us. That's who he's going to come and get in spirit and in truth. That's who are judged as righteous. That's why there's works involved, because this is work. This takes work. So these are thoughts that are contrasting to wickedness, purity, what's right, what's lovely, what's excellent, what's praiseworthy, admirable, noble, pure. We have to think on these things. Just like the Most High told Hermas, you should have righteous thoughts. You should never have any wickedness into your heart that you're allowing to come into your heart. Allow the purity to come into your heart. And therefore purity will follow. once you're consistent and diligent. Um, and that is pretty much it, yo. So it will be continued. Again, this was Vision 1, Shepherd of Hermas. The next time we'll be going over Commandment 1 and I think Commandment 2 as well. And then after that, similitudes, and then we'll go back to the visions. Okay. So little at a time. And that will be the order of things. And obviously there's going to be other studies involved that'll come up here and there in the midst of it. So again, I'm just super thankful to be able to start this series because this has been planned for a very long time. Um, but I hope y'all enjoyed this. Definitely utilize it. And I hope it hits your heart and your spirit. And same for me, in my own, how you have to be able to apply these things because it's timely also for us and timely for you guys. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pray out and you guys can enjoy your rest of your life. Dear Yah, we thank you for this word. We thank you for your correction, your reproof, your guidance. We ask that we take these things to heart, take these things to spirit, in our spirit, to be able to allow us to walk more righteously in you, to do the things that is required for us to walk in spirit and in truth, and not that we want to do it in a religious manner of just doing it because you said so, but we doing it because you said so, and we love to do it, and we want to do it because we serve you, and because we are your friend, as you said, Yahushua HaMashiach, that you have made friends of us to your Father through you. And we just ask that we just continue to walk on that narrow path and continue to understand what's required for us to walk in strength, that we may be able to do the things that you said we can do, cast out demons and destroy strongholds and destroy curses that have been upon us these whole entire time without understanding the right instructions and not walking in true wisdom. But we just thank you for your love. We thank you for your mercy and your grace for us to see fit, for you to see fit for us to receive these things that we need. And we ask that you continue to allow us to walk in the right doctrines of you, or walk in your Torah, walk in your word, your instructions, and not anyone else's. And we just love you so much. And we just give you all the praise, glory, and honor. In the name of your son, Yahushua HaMashiach. HaMashiach, we pray. Yamein. Yamein. All right, y'all. You guys have a good one. And until the next study, to be continued.